Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Alrighty, Rooski, whatever. It's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 198 of Gridiron Grinder. We're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week. After that, we're going to give you guys our AFC, NFC South Outlook, and then we'll close it off with our question of the week. And so, yeah, with all that being said, how's it going there tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Freaking hot as balls again, and I'm just sitting here pouring sweat, but I'm hanging in there, my man.
Yeah, my AC's kind of hurting lately too with it. It's been in the 90s outside, so like we have a lot of glass in the back which faces west, so the afternoon just kills us, and then it like the AC can't catch up till like
Yeah,
2 o'clock in the morning.
fighting a losing battle. That's exactly
Yeah.
how it is here. All right, well, hey, man, whenever you're ready, why don't you do a little Name That Stadium for us?
Oh. As everybody can see with my background, I'm traveling around, going to different stadiums, host NFL games. First person guesses right. We'll give you an extra special shout out in the following week's show. Hell, guess we'll just give you a regular shout out in the following week's show because nobody's been taking for like 6 months, a year maybe. But last week I was at the Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio, and we were doing the show on Thursday. It was during the Hall of Fame game, and the Hall of Fame induction was over the weekend, so I figured it was appropriate.
Yeah, and that's a unique stadium that you're only going to have an opportunity to hit every so often. So, yeah,
Yeah, about once a year,
I like it
maybe, maybe twice, depending on when, like maybe after the class is announced and then Hall of Fame game, maybe twice, but.
for sure, for sure. All right, cool. Well, yeah, name that stadium, and you know, it's alive and well for anybody that might want to take us on. Otherwise, yeah, why don't we just switch gears here and we'll do our recap of the past week, man.
All right, sounds good.
So, looking at the news, I mean, we had a couple games, right? The Lions played last night. They played the Giants. You had the Panthers played the Patriots. So preseason is alive and well. It was, I would say, fairly unspectacular. I do want to talk a little bit about the Lions in the question of the week, but I'm not going to spill the beans on it. Um, it's preseason, right? It's hard to get a read on things. And news-wise, I mean, let's see. I saw there was a trade, I think just today. The
Yeah,
Cowboys and the Vikings swapped cornerbacks.
but they swapped like nobody's
Well, Andrew Booth
basically.
was what, a second round pick? Or was he a late first round pick?
I guess he was a second round. I was thinking he was. I thought they swapped third round picks, but I guess he was middle of the second round.
Yeah, and then
Looking at it,
Nashawn Wright goes to the Vikings. Andrew Booth had a pretty good scouting report coming out of college, but yeah, I mean, they're swapping them because they both need a change of scenery apparently. So,
well, yeah, like Booth only played in 11% of Vikings defensive snaps over his tenure there, and Wright played in over 3 years, played in just 22 games with 3 starts and 1 interception. Nothing to really.
yeah, that ain't cutting it. So, but that's good because sometimes you move them out and the change of scenery lights a fire under their ass and they become a whole new player, or it's a better scheme, better fit, whatever the case may be. So, uh, you know, can't
Yeah,
knock them for trying.
and it kind of makes sense for the Vikings actually when you look at it because they had the draft pick that was killed in the car accident. Um, Mekhi Blackman suffered a torn ACL, and Shaq Griffin hasn't practiced um, basically all preseason because of his he strained his hamstring. So I mean, it kind of
Gotcha.
makes a little bit sense. Vikings taking a shot in the dark at a corner.
Yeah, yeah, nothing to lose. All right, so then James, I did see the Brandon Ayuk saga is alive and well here. They apparently just can't make up their minds. They granted him permission to seek a trade. He demanded a trade before that or whatever, or asked for a trade or whatever. And now apparently they are working to get a long-term extension done. So I don't know,
So
dude. It's just
what
crazy.
what I read was the Steelers are the Bears and the Commanders had legitimate offers on the table for San Francisco.
Okay.
The Steelers had an offer on the table that San Francisco won't even respond to. But I'd heard that I think it was the Bears and the Commanders had the workings of a deal already agreed to. It was just a matter of which one he wants to go to and sign a long-term deal with, and that was part of it.
It seems like it'd be crazy that the Bears would be going for another wide receiver, man.
I swear it was
I mean, it could have been. They could be thinking maybe Keenan Allen's like a 1-year deal or whatever, and but geez, it'd be a crazy wide receiver room plus the tight ends and everything. But yeah, and I don't know. I saw something like last week saying that some teams were offering him a deal that averaged out at like 35 million a year, and I thought, fuck, man, like, you know. If you're the 49ers, that's tough because obviously Brock Purdy is going to be a priority here at some point. And so, you can't just pay everybody fucking 30 to $50 million a year. So,
Mhm.
uh, even in the fake cap world. And while you're looking, it looks like Steelers pass rusher Marcus Golden has been placed on the reserve/retired list. 51 career sacks. Pittsburgh was the third team of his career, and he's been in the league since 2015, so 9 seasons. Hey, man, good for him.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking for it. I'm not seeing it, but I swear it was the Bears.
Okay.
Oh no, I was confusing the Bears because the Bears.
I heard the Patriots were one of the teams rumored to be in on it.
The Patriots kicked the tires and then were out.
Okay.
But so the Bears traded for a different wide receiver with San Francisco. That's what it was.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That's what it was. But I did hear there were 2 teams that had like basically the workings of the deal in place and gave it up to him to negotiate and get a long-term contract with. But I don't know. It's weird. San Francisco basically is saying that his offer, or like he offered, or he said he would sign for $30 million a year, and they're like, that's not a serious offer.
It's a lot of dough. It's a lot of cheddar.
It is. It is a lot of money, but this is what I was saying. Like Steelers are waiting to hear. According to sources, that the Steelers had reiterated their offer to the San Francisco, and they weren't willing to give any players in the offer.
Okay.
So I don't know. And then there's rumors, well, could they get a third? Yeah, so it was like multiple San Francisco. It was like multiple day 2 picks.
Okay.
Or something. It was the Browns. It was the Browns that were the other team that would.
Oh yeah, I did hear Cleveland. That's right. Yeah.
But he doesn't want to play for the Browns.
Okay.
So that's what it was. Browns, Bears, It's somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah, with a
Sounds
B,
very similar. It has a
with
B,
a C and a B.
a C and a
Chicago,
B.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in other wide receiver news, it looks like the Patriots released Juju Smith-Schuster, and so man, minus that one sweet season in Pittsburgh, which I think was his rookie year, he just has not been able to put it together, man.
Yeah, like to be fair, in New England, he just never really got in favor with Belichick. He played in 11 games, started 7 of them, only had 29 catches for 260 yards.
Yeah, that's not much.
Yeah, that was a $11 million a year waste.
You could say that. That's for sure. Yep.
But $16 million only guaranteed in it, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, and then we got another wide receiver. Looks like Rondale Moore with the Falcons has suffered a knee injury, and he's going to be out for the season. That one, that one stings because I was expecting him to be fighting for that wide receiver 2 job. You got Drake
Hmm.
London, and then you've got kind of like a mix of guys that could step up and be that too. And obviously they got Kyle Pitts, but um, I think that dings the passing game a bit for Atlanta. But it is what it is. It's part of the game, man.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he showed some flashes in Arizona, never seemed to really get over the hump there. So, nobody knows woulda, coulda, shoulda. He's hurt now. So, um, and then the Saints, they have extended linebacker Pete Werner. It looks like a 3-year extension worth just over 25 million, 17.5 million guaranteed. Not too shabby. That's kind of like a bargain contract in today's day
Hmm.
and era, man.
Yeah,
So
uh, nothing really big there. Did you see about the little bit of scary news?
what's
Because
that?
he had the storms going and like the or storms going in like Carolina and stuff. And apparently the Panthers plane on the way home to Carolina slid off the runway.
Oh, I heard something about that. Yeah.
Um, Nobody was hurt. The plane, it was a team charter, landed safely before running off the taxiway into the mud.
Yeah, that's no good.
And I mean, it was during quote torrential rains and both flood and tornado watches along the East Coast. So luckily nobody's hurt, but
Yeah. Yeah, and then I didn't see much about that. I just a little bit, but I did see. Looks like Nick Foles is officially going to be retiring, and he's going to do it as an Eagle. Man, still just a freaking super cool story with Nick Foles and how he
mhm.
got that fucking Super Bowl MVP and everything. And I'm looking at the article here. His stats, man. I know as a full-time starter, it seemed like he would struggle, but the stats were decent. He had 14,000 yards, 82 touchdowns to 47 interceptions, man. I mean, that's solid, dude. That's not like, a lot of these guys that come in off the bench, man, they're like 1-to-1 or worse with touchdowns and interceptions. And so,
Yeah.
Foles being basically 2-to-1 on that was just fucking solid right there, man.
So he's one of 8 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw 7 touchdowns in a game. One of 3 to throw 7 touchdowns in a game with no interceptions. The only other 2 were Peyton Manning and Y.A. Tittle.
Gotcha.
He's tied with the NFL record for most consecutive completions, most consecutive completions, and most consecutive pass completions in a game. Eagles franchise record for passer rating and passing yards in a game.
Yeah, and every time he got a full-time job, he just looked like he couldn't get him over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he was a stud coming off the bench, and man, and then amazing in that Super Bowl. That was still probably one of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And in that season, he only had 971 yards. Well,
Yeah,
no, because he didn't play the full season. That's right.
yeah. Wentz got hurt like right at the end of the year, man.
Yeah, that's right. But he had almost 403 touchdowns in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Um,
and the Philly
and
special.
yeah, the Philly special. Foles still has the highest completion percentage in NFL playoff history. For wow. So basically, they're from what I'm reading in this article that I just pulled up that I'm throwing the stats from. It looks like they're going to end up retiring his number because since he left the team, they have not issued the number.
Gotcha. I mean, they might as well. They made a statue for him, so I
Yeah.
mean, the dude's a freaking legend. I mean, it's like the craziest legend story ever.
Mm-hmm.
Usually a legend's like, he played 15 years and led the league in passing 8 times. And this guy's like, no, he was a career backup, but a fucking legend.
In 2013, he had the best single season touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history at 27-2.
Yeah. Fucking Nick Foles, man. Nick Foles.
He's the
Sandbagging son of a bitch.
only NFL quarterback ever to have 20 plus passing touchdowns in a season and only throw 2 interceptions. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. How he couldn't put it together all the time just blows my mind. But, what we got from him was pretty sweet.
Yeah, when he put it together, he put it together. But he only really had good years with Philadelphia, which is the strangest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Scratch your head on that one. I'm scratching my head because it itches, but that's literally a head scratcher, and how he could have such good years there.
It was destiny.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got on the news of the week. But if you see something, why don't you let me know, my man?
There's a couple little things, nothing too big. Like Prescott is set up practice today with the ankle injury
Oh, little
or ankle
baby.
ankle
Poor little
soreness.
baby. Yeah. Well, is
And
that the ankle that he frickin' snapped a couple years ago?
I don't know. I didn't actually read the article. I just saw the headline.
Oh,
It's
that
due to
injury was
soreness.
freaking brutal, man. Just watching the
Yeah.
leg just. Not as bad as the Joe Burrow one, but it was nasty. Oh, the Burrow one, dude. It's like, oh, definitely not supposed to bend that way.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it doesn't say the article. It doesn't say which ankle. It just says due to ankle soreness, according to the team. So
gotcha.
it doesn't specify it.
Okay.
Probably the same ankle because I think last year he had ankle soreness, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, better to be safe than sorry with Dak. I mean, it's, the final year of his contract. Him and McCarthy, it seems like both are like on the hot seat. They got to make a deep, deep fucking playoff run or it's going to be it, man. So, likely for both of them.
Yeah, likely for both of them. Won't get a contract.
I mean, somebody will sign him, right? But yeah, I mean, it's,
No, won't get the contract that he wants. I'm glancing. That's like kind of about it. Like I mean, Giants need a new backup quarterback, but that's backup. That's about it.
Okay. Well, we
I
don't have
didn't
to
see
beat the
the
dead
preseason
horse.
game, so I don't know what happened because NFL Network showed the Patriots Carolina game instead of the fucking Lions game, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't realize the Lions game was on Fox. One of our buddies sent me a message, like, I don't know, halfway through the first quarter, and I was like, oh shit. So I popped it on, and, I don't know. The Lions, I mean, you got to keep in mind it was all backups, right? But
Hmm.
even then, they looked just, they got work to do. They looked sloppy. They looked outmatched by the freaking Giants backups. And I don't know, that bothered me. I mean, it looked like the Giants were just having their way with us a little bit, to be honest. So, you know,
Yeah.
whether
Some
it's the starters or the backups, you don't want to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to see it at all. Some starters playing in games today. There apparently Tank Dell had a sweet 34-yard touchdown reception where he broke like 5 tackles,
Nice.
and then Penix like threw threw a 41-yard bomb to somebody I've never even heard of.
Okay. Quarterback controversy. Uh,
Where's Penix at anyways? Why do I always forget where he went?
Atlanta, man.
That's why I always forget it because I block it out because it's the most ridiculous draft pick I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That's right. I I don't know why I can't remember that.
It's just messed up that they did it.
Probably, yeah. It's probably just so messed up that I can't even bring myself to say it. It's
Yeah. You're like, well, they got Cousins. Why would they need another quarterback? Because they're
yeah.
fucking stupid.
Apparently, Falcons are doing pretty good though. Quick, you know, first half scores. 2 minutes left in the second quarter. Dolphins are up 17-10.
Okay.
Texans are beating the shit out of the Steelers at halftime, 17-0.
Gotcha.
And the Eagles Ravens are in a dogfight, 6-6, with
Ooh,
4 minutes
yes.
left in the second quarter.
Yeah. Backup football.
Backup football. But hey, those 4 people that watch might want to know that. And it's not like we're doing this live and they're watching it live. So
Oh yeah. No, and yeah, the Giants backup running back, I forget his name, something Gray. Man, he tore us apart yesterday. And they were saying that game could put him into consideration to compete with what's his face, Devin Singletary is the starter potentially. And so, you know, they feel good that they let Saquon walk basically, because they got a backup that showed some excitement and they got a starter that showed some promise last year in Houston. And so, that's I think good for the Giants.
yeah, Eric Gray had 4 rushes for 52 yards against us.
Yeah, and I think like another 40 or 50 receiving.
Four receptions on 4 targets for 46 yards.
Yeah. Yep. Now it is the Lions defense, the backup defense at that, but still, you know, noteworthy.
Jesus Christ, how many people? Oh, I thought as I was scrolling down, like in the stats, like I thought I was looking at receiving, and like then I'm like I get like halfway down the page, I was like, wait a minute, how many receivers do the Giants have on their roster? But I got into some defensive stats and got confused. That's
Gotcha.
the type of week I'm having.
Hey, it's all good, man. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little tired here, but usually the football stuff gives me a second win, so we'll see. We just got to keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Well, you want to, move over and do our AFC NFC South Outlook?
Yeah, I don't think I have much more. I'm not seeing much more on the news, so I'm good to go.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, same thing as last week. We'll start with the AFC. And, we were referencing a Bleacher Report article as we were going through some of this. And so, let's see, if we're doing the AFC South and we did it alphabetical, that would have Houston first. So let me find
Is it the
Houston.
off-season report cards one? I accidentally closed it.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want me to send it to you again?
Nope, I got it.
Okay.
I got it in the chat. I was just like, I had to go back to the chat to look at it. All right, so we are alphabetical. So you said that's Houston.
Yep, and they are. Oh, hang on a second. I'm fucking. Yeah, Houston. Holy shit. I was like, wait a minute. Am I in the wrong division again? No, it is Houston.
No, I had to double check because it's not that often that like alphabetically you're so far into the alphabet.
Oh yeah, it's 13 out of 32.
Yeah.
Houston, obviously coming off a great year, they had a fucking rock solid offseason.
Fucking awesome.
I mean,
Awesome.
bringing in Daniil Hunter, Stephon Diggs, even linebacker Aziz Al-Shaair, he's had some flashes. Mixon at running back, we'll see. He's getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I think he can still be good. Denico Autry, even looking at like Okuda, Okuda could compete to be their CB2. That's
Hmm.
fine. Man, they brought back Dalton Schultz. I think that was a smart move. Um, and then I guess looking at the draft, they're saying their key additions there: cornerback Kamari Lassiter, offensive tackle Blake Fisher, safety Kalen Bullock, and tight end Cade Stover. Now they did lose Devin Singletary at running back, Malik Collins at defensive tackle, Blake Cashman at linebacker. I'm just kind of pointing out a couple of the ones that I think are relevant. Jonathan Greenard at edge, Sheldon Rankins at defensive tackle, and Denzel Perryman at linebacker. Denzel Perryman kind of one-dimensional linebacker, but he was a tackle machine. Um, I still think overall these guys have had a great freaking offseason, man.
Yeah, and like the one thing which that's not okay, he is on there. I was like, I remember when I looked at their draft, like their first two picks in the draft, I thought when we ranked them, I thought those were pretty good picks. I didn't really like the Kalen Bullock pick. I don't think that's that good of an addition, but because I thought that was a big reach
Sure.
for that position there. Free agency wise, they had an amazing free agency. I think who's their running back there? Oh fuck. Singletary was really a change of pace guy, which is
I mean, he became their workhorse last year. He beat out Damian Pierce, and he had a good year. But yeah, in Buffalo, he was for sure just a part-time guy, right?
did he beat him out? Why did I block that out? Like
I think
I
nobody
think Damien
expected it, man.
I thought did Damien Pierce get hurt or something?
Yeah, not like insane, right? But like here we go, 216 carries, 898 yards, and then he had 30 receptions on top of that. So not necessarily like crazy workhorse numbers, but you know, close to 220 touches plus 30, well, 220 carries plus 30 receptions. That's pretty solid with the way a lot of these teams rotate running backs now, man.
Yeah, but I mean, Damian Pierce had only played in 14 games, but he struggled. Wow, he
Yep.
struggled a lot. Why am I forgetting this? Like
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
completely
especially after such a freaking sweet rookie season, he just yeah, just fell apart, man.
I completely forgot. So maybe Mixon is going to be the one there, based
Yeah,
on that.
Mixon will be the guy. It's just does Mixon end up having a workload like Singletary? Because I'm sure they're still hopeful that Damian Pierce is going to get back to that rookie form. That's the best case scenario because you don't want Mixon carrying the ball 300 times at this stage of his career.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think the biggest addition is bringing in Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, Diggs is, Nico Collins already blew up, right? Tank
Hmm.
Dell looks like he's going to be legit. Now you got Diggs. I mean, it's just, and they did bring back Dalton Schultz. So you got like sick fucking weapons for Stroud, man.
Yeah. So, base when you look at their schedule, though, I don't want to open accessibility on my schedule spreadsheet. They play the North and the NFC North and the AFC East. They have a pretty hard schedule. They have a really hard schedule. They finish 3 of their last 4 games: home for Miami, at Kansas City, home for Baltimore.
Yeah.
It's a rough way to end the season.
I think
They
they'll
got
have the division in the bag by then. But yeah, it'll, you know, and luckily they're coming off a bye when they play Miami. That'll help. And it's at home. I mean, that's the
so I
benefit. When you're a good team, that's the benefit of having a late bye week, right?
mhm.
Is that, if it's close, you got that late week to just rest and then make that final surge.
Yeah. So from our way too early to our current predictions, I didn't actually make any changes for Houston. I had them at 10-7. I still have them at 10-7, and I have them at 10-7, losing their last 4 games and still winning the
Shit,
division
losing their last 4. All right.
because they have the division in the bag. I
Oh,
think
gotcha.
going into the bye
Just
week,
let the
they have
foot
the
off the
division.
gas.
Yeah, they have the division in the bag. I think they win the division in when they beat Jacksonville in week 13, and then they have a bye, and then those games just really don't matter.
Okay. Well, yeah, my super early was a bit aggressive. I had them at 13 wins, so 13-4. But I toned it down a little bit. I brought them down to 11-6 after, you know, putting a little bit of finesse to the team ratings and then actually like plugging those into the schedule. And so I still think they're having a great year, and I think they finish strong. I think they can win 3 out of those final 4. At a minimum, I think they split it, but I guess that Tennessee game at the last game of the year for sure could be a throwaway if they're that far ahead. So, um, either way, 11-6. I think that's where they were last year, right? So that's a repeat, but winning the division and you know getting them into the playoffs, where that's really all that's going to count for them at this point. Their Super Bowl window opened, and it's just a matter of how deep can they go and how quickly can they get there. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, they should be good, man. They should be a force to be reckoned with. So next up, that takes us to HI. That takes us to Indianapolis.
All right. So for the Colts, their key additions, re-signings: Raekwon Davis, Joe Flacco,
Yeah,
safe,
yeah.
safety Julian Blackman, cornerback Kenny Moore. They re-signed Pitts, and I don't know why they're listing this as a key addition, re-signing running back Trace Sermon.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because you
Because they
know,
lost Moss.
yeah, Zach Moss kind of like stole the spotlight from Jonathan Taylor last year,
Yeah,
right?
but
So
Jonathan Taylor, I see. This is another one where I remember Jonathan Taylor being
he came on
injured
hot at
last
the end, man.
maybe injured early in the year, and then came back late in the year. That's
Could be.
what.
He had let's see, 169 touches, 741 yards, 19 receptions. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
so
know how many
Jonathan
games he
Taylor only
played, but
played in 10 games last year,
yeah,
and Zach Moss played in 14. They had comparable
I know,
rushing
but
stats.
Zach Moss looked real good for being the backup. And either
Yeah.
way, Jonathan Taylor, you're hoping he bounces back. It'll be interesting to see how that offense is with a running quarterback, a mobile quarterback. But, um, you know, the Flacco thing is kind of weird, right? Because you got like the slowest statue of a quarterback
Hmm.
behind a Lamar Jackson type quarterback. So that's a little bit weird, but hey, they're doing what they got to do, I guess.
Yeah, they're doing it. It doesn't make sense, but you remember Joe Flacco was the backup to
Watson.
Watson last year, and
Yep.
he had a ridiculous season there. So
I
maybe
know, coming straight
there's
off the
still
couch, man. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's what they're valuing is
Hmm.
that hey, if something happens to Richardson, at least Flacco could potentially keep us on a playoff path.
Hmm.
Minshew last year did great for them when Richardson went down, and so there's potential there. I'm not as high on Indianapolis as some people are, but I could see I could see the path. I just think that they need another year to keep putting it together.
Yeah. So like their departures, we mentioned Minshew and Moss, and they also lost edge Jacob Martin. I thought they had an excellent draft with Leatu Latu, Adonai Mitchell, and Matt Guncalves. Sorry. I think I knew somebody with the last name Gunclaves.
Okay.
So that kind of threw me. But Guncalves, at interior offensive lineman. Free agency wise, they kind of shit the bed a little bit, but
They could have done more for sure.
could have done more to increase the team. Had an excellent draft though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they need Latu to come in and be effective sooner than later. He's the guy that had the neck injuries, I think, coming out of college. And so,
Yeah, I think so.
so there's some risk with him, but yeah, I mean, it looks like, geez, they had the 28th ranked scoring defense. So, they need help there.
They need a lot of help. They still need a lot of help. I actually had them at 9-8 in the way too early
Okay.
predictions that we did. I actually dropped them to actually being last in the division,
Sure.
7-10.
Yeah, see, this one's tough for me. This is like the one that, out of a lot of these ones that sort of like were either really high or really low, this is one that I couldn't really figure out how to tweak it, like how to manually override some of these games. And so, and maybe I'll get there when, I see Richardson again. I mean, he looked really good when he played as a rookie, but right now, we were talking about it. I was using the Madden team ratings to kind of help base some of my picks, and they've got Indy at a 76, which is like near the very bottom of the league. My super early had Indy at 5-12. After I adjusted it, I've got them even lower. I've got them at 3-14 right now, which it's kind of a hard pill to swallow because they fucking crushed that last year with Minshew at quarterback, right? But I also wonder, can they exceed expectations again with the defense being that shitty? I think the defense has really got to step up. Otherwise, they could be riding the struggle bus even if Richardson has a good year. So,
Oh, totally agree. Like I would like to see them do more in the off season. Like the draft was great, but that's you
yeah,
really
and they
don't
had
know what
cap
a lot of these
space, man.
players.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I was just looking at this article. I think they had almost 30 million in cap space or something. So, you know, um, let's see, what's it say? Oh no, they still have 25.7 million in space. So they
hmm
definitely could have done more, man. But I think they're doing a slow and steady kind of thing right now, which is, hey, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I just might have sprinkled in like one or two more names if it was me.
hmm
All right, so that takes us to the Jacksonville Jaguars, or you could say the Jacksonville Jaguars if you go soft J. I like this. They're all three in a row here on our Bleacher Report. Make it nice and easy for us.
Yeah, and then the next one fucks that up. But so their key additions resigning. They signed Gabe Davis, center Mitch Morse, safety Darnell Savage, cornerback Ronald Darby, tackle Eric Armstead, edge Josh Allen.
Yeah,
They
they
re-signed him.
gave him a big one, yeah.
Offensive lineman Blake Hance and running back DeErnest Johnson. Why the fuck did they need another running back? I don't understand that. Key departures, they lost Calvin Ridley, safety Rashawn Jenkins, tackle Foley Fatukasi, cornerback Darius Williams, edge
Clavon Chason.
Yeah, and cornerback Trey Herndon.
Today, Junior. Hey, some of these names are tough, man. I know what you're saying here.
They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver, Mason Smith, defensive lineman, and cornerback Jarian Jones. Also, they jacked up their cap space by giving Trevor Lawrence a fucking ridiculous extension for a basically middle of the road
I know, but you know they were going to do it, man. I mean,
yeah.
Nobody was going to hit the reset button on Trevor Lawrence.
I know. But that was just ridiculous. Like, the amount they gave him is just too much for middle of the road. So I really liked the Brian Thomas Jr. draft pick. I thought that was an excellent draft pick for them.
Some guys were saying that they thought he had higher upside than fucking Harrison Jr., than Neighbors. I mean, some people are saying he's a bit raw, but could end up being the better wide receiver out of this class, man.
Yeah. And then Mason Smith, draft pick, I was splitting hairs with. I thought they could have drafted better there, but.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about some of those defensive linemen creep up the draft just because of the supply and demand for them.
Yeah, and then the cornerback, Jarian Jones, it was a terrible fucking draft pick. A terrible fucking draft pick. So I have them taking second in the division at 8 and 9, and this is how much I have Houston being in the lead, winning the division. I have Jacksonville winning 4 of their last 5 games and still not having a shot at the division.
Jeez. So what did you say you have them at, record-wise?
8 and 9.
Okay. Well, you and I are the same on that. So I had them at 9 and 8 in the super early, and I dropped them down 1. So I've got them at 8 and 9 now. I mean, it just seems like this is Houston's division. Like it's just not a question.
Yeah, and it's not a question. These other teams, Jacksonville, you need to see a lot more from Lawrence. From the team. They consistently underperform again in the games that they're supposed to win, and they play really well in the games that are tough games or challenging games. But you need to see a lot more from them in those games they're supposed to win, and that's what's gonna help them take that next step. Like, they made the playoffs. Did they make the playoffs the last 2 years, or was it?
No, they didn't make the playoffs last year.
They made the playoffs 2 years ago. Trevor Lawrence was hurt last year, which is kind of derailed the season.
Well, they had a shitty offensive line, and but I don't know that they did a whole lot to make it better.
They didn't.
Yeah, I think, man, I don't know. I mean, we talk about it a lot, right? It starts with the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a mediocre quarterback look great if you can give him all day to throw the ball. And I am a big believer still to this day that that's part of the reason Dak Prescott developed into such a good quarterback is because he went in and had arguably the best offensive line for the first 3-4 years of his career. Because I think if you would have put him on a regular team with a mediocre offensive line, I think he would have fucking sucked, man. And I think it would have been very hard for him to develop. But, some of that is like I go back to the David Carr thing with the Houston Texans way back in the day. It's like, dude, if you let a guy get sacked fucking 60 something times a year, it's going to be real hard for him to get better. He's going to be fucking
Hmm.
shell shocked and fucking afraid of getting hit left and right. And so, you know, but Trevor Lawrence, he's got the pedigree that he can overcome some of that, but only to a certain degree, right? You still got to protect the guy. I think for his
I
development, he can overcome that, is what I mean. I don't know that, like, on the field, he's overcoming it unless they do a better job giving him some time.
No, I agree with you there. Like David Carr is an example of a quarterback that just got rocked too much. I think you hit that nail on the head. You had good offensive line with Dak, and that's why he had success early. Like I can't really argue with what you said there.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the Titans, man. So our last one for the South.
All right, so the Titans, they added or re-signed L'Jarius Sneed at corner,
Yeah, that was
wide
a
receiver,
big one, taking him from
big one,
Kansas City.
big one, wide receiver Calvin Ridley, running back Tony Pollard. I'd have to see a lot more from him. Center Lloyd Cushenberry, I think, is another big one. I think that beefed up the offensive line a little bit. Cornerback Chidobe Awuzie, linebacker Kenneth Murray, and wide receiver Tyler Boyd. I
I like
saw
what they
Boyd.
did.
I saw Boyd and I thought Byard,
Oh,
and I was like, wait a minute, he's not a wide receiver. Departures: they lost King Henry, Aziz Al-Shahir at linebacker, center Aaron Brewer, defensive line Danico Autry, Sean Murphy-Bunting at quarterback, and Kayvon Wallace at safety. They drafted J.C. Latham for at tackle, Tavondre Sweat.
I think it's Sweat.
Yeah, I think it's Sweat too. Defensive line and linebacker Cedric Gray. I don't think they had that good of a draft. Like we talked about it when we did our draft recap. I think they should have gone defensive lineman in the first pick and then come back and got the tackle. I thought that they were primed to take the defensive lineman that was clearly the best defensive lineman on the board that fell way down to like 15.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do like the positions, It's just, yeah, could they have gotten better value with a different
Yeah.
approach? Maybe. But I think important to beef up the offensive line. So, Cushenberry in free agency, Latham in the draft. It was smart to double down. I think
Mm-hmm.
Sweat on that defensive line, he had a pretty good scouting report coming out of college. I believe he was, a big, big guy, going to be in the middle, maybe a part-time guy on the line at least to start, but there's potential there. And then, like you mentioned, Tony Pollard, I heard he's going to split carries is what they're expecting with, I forget what's his face was there last year with Derrick Henry, but
Oh yeah. God, what was his name? No,
yeah,
God
but
was not his name.
I do believe Tennessee has actually had a pretty darn good offseason, right? I think a lot of it is going to be, what happens
Tajay
with,
Spears.
thank you, Tyjae Spears. Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to be what happens with Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
Can he develop into a solid starting level quarterback? If he can, I think this team has some hope. I don't know that they're a playoff team, but if he can't, I think they're riding the struggle bus for another year, man.
See, the problem with the Titans, everything I'm reading out of training camp is Mason Rudolph is way outshining Will Levis.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Um,
But, I mean, here's the deal. Mason Rudolph did have decent games as a starter in Pittsburgh, and you're giving him, pretty respectable weapons. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, they still have DeAndre Hopkins. You know, I don't know who else they have, but that's starting caliber, solid guys to throw to. and then you've got a running back by committee that, on paper should be able to get it done. So
wide receiver wise, nothing really. They have Traylon Burks, also, but they have.
yeah, he just hasn't gotten there. Yeah.
He hasn't gotten there. They have. You're gonna say this tight end, Okonkwo.
Okonkwo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
tight
He
end.
was like a lot of people were expecting him to break out last year. I don't really think it happened, but there's potential there, I suppose.
Yeah, and they have a pretty good offensive line now with their projected starters are J.C. Latham, Peter Skronsky, Lloyd Cushenberry, going from left tackle in, and then back out with Dylan Redunds and Nicholas Pettit Frere, Frere, however the fuck you pronounce it.
Okay.
So they've made a lot of strides on that offensive line, which is going to be good for them and good for the development of whoever their quarterback is going to be. I mean, shit, I can't believe Mason Rudolph's going into his 7th season.
Yeah. And latching onto another team outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So at the way too early, I had them at 8 and 9. I dropped them down a game to 7 and 10. And the reason I dropped them down a game to 7 and 10 is because a lot of it has to do with the fact of what I'm reading out of camp, how Mason Rudolph is outshining Will Levis. And if Mason Rudolph is outshining the guy that's supposed to be your starter, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, I had these guys super early, 3 and 14. I thought it was going to be real ugly. I bumped them up just a little bit to 5 and 12. And so, not lighting the world on fire, still trailing you, but I do see the potential for them to beat 5 and 12. So it just, I think the quarterback situation is going to dictate it. All right, so that's the AFC South. Why don't we move on down to the NFC South here, James?
All right.
And so alphabetically, we've got Atlanta first off.
I really hate what Atlanta's done this fucking offseason. I liked it.
Because of the one thing. Because of the one thing.
And let me get to them. Because that one thing was huge, and I thought that was so fucking great. And then the first thing, and then they go out and do the second thing, and it's like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yep.
All right. Key signings / returns. Kirk Cousins. Wait, Rondell Moore is no longer. Was it? Which one did they get rid of?
Out for the year.
Rondell Moore out for the year. So I'm going to skip him. I drew a.
Yeah, and Darnell Mooney, he's the logical wide receiver 2 now. And he was basically a wide receiver 2 in Chicago. So, he can fill that role no problem. But it would have been better for Cousins to have one more option to throw to because, Drake London is just one guy. And then Kyle Pitts, for all the talent he has, and hopefully it's just a quarterback thing, but has just not been able to live up to the expectation yet.
Yeah, so they signed Kirk Cousins. They signed cornerback Antonio Hamilton, wide receivers Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney. Rondell Moore, they also signed, but he's out. They draft, and I don't know why the fuck, this is a key draft addition, a backup fucking quarterback and Michael Penix Jr. to back up Kirk Cousins, telling him, you know what, we don't think you're the fucking guy. Defensive lineman Rook or and edge Braylon Trice.
Yep, I do like the Braylon Trice pick, but I think they needed to go edge in round 1.
Yes, with fucking goddamn, what's his name?
Anybody,
but there was one that was
it the Alabama guy?
Yeah,
well, the Alabama guy slid way down the board, right? But
it was.
They had their pick of the litter.
Yeah. What the? I'm trying to look at the draft and pick them out. I was because He was picked like 16th. Who picked 16th? I want to say it was picked 16th.
Let's see. Could it have
No,
been?
Byron Murphy was picked 16th, so it's not him.
You had Latu went 15. You had Dallas Turner. That's who you're thinking of.
Dallas Turner, that's it.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember? Like I could.
The fucking Vikings scooped him, and we were pissed
At
about it.
17. I was right. I was right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dallas Turner and then fucking Chop Robinson went off the board, but I wanted to trade up to get fucking Dallas Turner, and
Yep.
motherfuckers. Anyways, I digress. They're losses. That's where I was. They're losses. I don't want to sign up for your newsletter. They lost Bud Dupree, center Matt Hennessy, wide receiver Van Jefferson, wide receiver Mac Hollins, cornerback Jeff Okuda, I thought I would have had him as a running back, but that's okay. Cordarrelle Patterson, quarterback Desmond Ridder, and tight end Jonnu Smith.
Yep.
I really kind of like what they did in free agency. And what they did in free agency, I'm not saying it was enough, but I like what they did. They had a lot of let people go that really underperformed. Like I would have liked them to bring Cordarrelle Patterson back. I would have liked them possibly to bring Okuda back.
Yeah, he did good for them.
But outside of that, I have no real complaints, and I'm really splitting hairs because for who I like. Maybe Jonnu Smith because Pitts is not a true tight end. Jonnu Smith is more of a true tight end.
Yeah, I just think I think they needed to do more on the defense.
Yeah,
the defense has been letting them down for a long time.
Draft.
Yeah,
they screwed the pooch in the fucking draft. They pissed themselves because some random quarterback was there and nobody ever. Well, yeah. Nope. Minnesota and Washington didn't believe in Cousins, so why we signed him to a huge deal, but why should we believe in him?
Well, yeah, and also they skipped over Belichick for Raheem Morris, which, man, I would have actually been really excited to see Belichick with Cousins as his quarterback, but
yeah.
That ship has sailed. Plus, I believe Belichick would have found a way to get the defense to be decent, at least by the end of the year. And Raheem Morris can do that too. He's young. He's got the potential. He's been a head coach before. He's got a lot of experience in this league. It just was a very perplexing offseason,
Exactly.
So where were you at super early on these guys?
Super early, I was 4-13.
Okay.
Now I'm at 3-14.
Oh man. You got them real low.
I like Cousins, but I think the distraction of Penix, I don't think they did enough on the defense. There's so many pieces they could have done on the defense. I don't think they have the offensive line help to protect Cousins. And it's also possibly part of the bias that they drafted fucking their backup quarterback in the top fucking 10. Like that just blew my mind.
Yeah, that's a bold strategy. All right. Well, I had him at 9-8 in the super early. I dropped him down to 7-10. I think a lot of people were, for a while thinking, oh, they're just going to be the top team in this division now that they got Cousins. But, Tampa Bay did make the playoffs last year. They brought back pretty much their entire core. And then, New Orleans has got another year with Derek Carr in that system under his belt with those teammates. And so I don't know, man. I think Atlanta, there's a lot changing, and they brought in Cousins, and that's great, but they didn't do him a lot of favors, and they still have a very shitty defense that they got to figure out how to make better. So, yeah, I think that it's I got them fighting for third in the division, but maybe the following year, and maybe Cousins will put him on the back and carry him, but Cousins has never really been that kind of a quarterback, right? So I don't know. It's just tough.
You just mentioned winning the division. Can we go on to the NFC South champions?
Yes, we can.
The Carolina Panthers. Key additions, re-signings. Jaden Clowney, who always seems to fucking catch a contract.
Yeah.
Safety, Jordan Fuller. Guard, Robert Hunt. Wide receiver, and nothing to write home at about Deontay Johnson. Guard, Damian Lewis. Defensive lineman, Ashawn Robinson. They lost safety, Von Bell. Center, Bradley Bozeman. Edge, big loss, Brian Burns. Cornerback, Dante Jackson. Linebacker, Frankie Louvu. And tight end, Hayden Hurst.
Frankie Louvu was really good for them. I
know.
think they lost a lot on defense.
They did lose a lot on defense, but the defense was so on paper they weren't underperforming, but watching them play, they felt like they were underperforming.
Yeah.
So
I gotta believe it was coaching because
yeah.
Man, the year before they were a lot more stout.
Yeah. So I really like the start to their draft. They drafted wide receiver Xavier Leggett and running back Jonathan Brooks.
Yep.
Like that. Then they go in and drafted linebacker Trevin Wallace. I absolutely hate that draft pick, but hey, had to get a linebacker in there. Such is life. What can you do?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I don't know. So Thielen is still there at wide receiver. Deontay Johnson and Xavier Leggett. So I mean, on paper, you're kind of rounding out a decent top three if Leggett can be effective in year one, and Deontay Johnson.
They also still have Jonathan Mingo.
Okay. Yeah, and then Deontay Johnson's got to be more than just a burner, right? And then even if he is just a burner, can that jive with Bryce Young? And so I just still struggle with how bad Bryce Young was last year, and I know it wasn't all his fault, right? But man, he just was so bad. I don't know.
Unfortunately, are you fucking kidding me?
What's that?
Are you fucking kidding me? Jonathan Brooks is out for the preseason.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh.
So you got Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders.
Yeah. So Jonathan Brooks is coming back from an ACL tear.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. I forgot about that. I still like the draft pick, but I forgot about that.
Yeah. I think he's got good potential long term, right? He was coming out of college. I mean, I think he was like the highest rated running back this year, right? Going in the draft.
Yeah. I had them in the super early at 8 and 9.
Okay.
I now have them winning the division at 10 and 7.
You son of a bitch. I mean, you're the worst of first. These are your guys. The worst of first in the division.
Everything I'm reading about that, it makes me more excited for that team, and
okay,
that franchise who hasn't had any success basically ever besides 1 year.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had him at 4-13 in the super early. I bumped him up to 5-12, but I still have him at the bottom of the division. And to me, it's just going to have to be, Bryce Young. You got to show me something before I'm going to believe anything. And this is another one where Madden's got him near the bottom of the barrel, 76 rated team. They've got some work to do on that roster. So, but they do have some young guys that could step up. And Bryce Young, notably, is the most important one of them.
So I think a lot of the issues with Bryce Young last year were had to do with coaching.
Okay. All righty. On to the New Orleans Saints.
All right, the New Orleans Saints.
New
Orleans Saints added or re-signed Willie Gay, quarterback Nathan Peterman. He's still in the league. Wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. And the big one, edge Chase Young. How the fuck could they afford to sign Chase Young? I thought they were like $40 million over the cap.
Yeah, but Chase Young's been bouncing teams for a couple years now, right? So
not really. Chase Young
from Washington to San Francisco, now to
but
New Orleans.
He was traded to San Francisco last year in the final year of his contract.
I think that the hype on Chase Young has passed. But I did hear he's getting great reviews.
Like I thought they were like seven.
So he's getting a 1-year, $13 million contract. That's pretty good.
But weren't they like $75 billion over the cap?
Oh, they always are. Yeah.
Anyways, that's where that
they're the prime example of fake cap. If they can find a way to make it work every year, it's so fucking fake.
Yeah. So they drafted. I'm going to drop off the last draft pick because I don't think it matters that they list. They drafted what I thought was really well. They drafted Talise Fuaga, interior offensive lineman, and cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now their losses, they lost Zach Vaughn at linebacker, cornerback Lonnie Johnson, defensive lineman Malcolm Roach, wide receiver Michael Thomas, quarterback Jameis Winston. I forgot that he left there. And cornerback Isaac Yiadom. They hired an new offensive coordinator. Apparently, too. Currently, they are facing a 2025 cap deficit of $98.1 million.
How do they do it every year? Oh. And that's just right now where they're at. I mean, it's probably not going to get worse than that, right? But Jesus, man, how does the league even let them play?
I don't fucking know.
The league. I mean, it just goes to show you that the CBA is fucked. That you can have all these void years and do all this cap manipulation where your team could even get into this position. To be, the fucking salary cap's what, $250 million or something? You're almost half the cap over the cap.
Good news is, for 2027, they have $217 million of projected cap space.
Why? Because nobody's under contract?
They currently have $100 million under contract for 2020. It doesn't project anything past that. 2026, they're projected to have $18 million. Jeez. So they have like $300 million to push forward into those years, so they get under the cap
Yeah, one day.
one day. The other thing is they currently have $10 million of cap space. How the fuck do they have $10 million of cap space?
It's fucked. It's fucked. It's the fakest cap shit I've ever seen. If I was the Saints, I would say, listen, guys, we're starting over today. I'm fucking trading anybody and everybody that will get me a draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
And we are starting over with all fucking rookies in league minimum contracts next year. And we're building it from the ground up until we get out of salary cap hell. Oh,
I want to see how much current dead cap they have. Wait, this can't be fucking right.
yeah. What do they still got? Drew Brees sitting on there?
Well, no, I just saw that, like, according to, because over the cap doesn't tell you.
Oh, you probably got to go Spotrac for the dead cap stuff.
But I went to the dead cap stuff for Spotrac, and it shows the Lions having 40 million of cap space. Oh, for their top 51. Okay, that makes more sense. Where the fuck are they? Here they are.
Spotrac.
They apparently have 7 million of cap space. Active roster. They changed the website a little bit on Spotrac.
Okay. Take your time.
Dead money. Okay. Their dead money, they have like 20% of their cap hit is dead money. Andrews Pete, 14 million. Michael Thomas, 12. Marcus May, 8. Jameis Winston, 3. James Hurst, 2.5. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Let me see how much dead cap they have for 2024. I'm just curious. Or not 2024, 2025. We're in 2024. Oh, according to Spotrac, they're 100 million over the 108 million over the 2025 cap. They have Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, both like Jameis Winston. It's like, how the fuck does this team exist? How does the NFL let this happen?
Yeah, they shouldn't.
Good news is they currently do not have any dead cap hits for 2026 season.
Yeah, it bothers me because, I mean, you know this, we talked about it a lot, but it's when you can do these kinds of things with the cap, it's almost like, why are we even having a salary cap? You know, you're fudging like the whole purpose of having the salary cap to make it as even as possible from a competition standpoint from team to team. You know?
Yeah. So, and this article, the Bleacher Report article that we're referencing, the first paragraph sums it up perfectly. The New Orleans Saints entered the offseason staring down a substantial cap deficit. The fact that they didn't significantly deconstruct their roster was impressive, though general manager Mickey Loomis has a history of kicking contracts down the road.
Yes.
All right. Anyways, the Saints just pissed me off.
Yeah.
It just bugs the fuck out of me.
I concur.
I had them at 7-10.
Okay.
Did I seriously do that?
You're super early with 7-10?
My super early was 7-10. My current one is 8-9.
Okay.
I don't know what I was smoking when I did that because
pretty close.
I would think it would have gone the other way though.
You know, I don't know. You know, once you plug it into the schedule, sometimes, it can surprise you one way or the other. But yeah, I had him at 7-10 originally as well, and I bumped him up to 9-8. And so, you know, I think there's the potential there. At 9-8, I've got them tied with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the division. Um, and fuck, I don't even know how I would do the tiebreaker on them. I'd have to like take the time to look at it, to be honest, because I've got them splitting with each other. Um,
So then it's conference
yeah, and I'm not going to do that
record.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah, it becomes it becomes really difficult after like when for this setting unless you do it in advance to
yeah,
do it off the cuff.
correct. Which is fine. We can just go to Tampa Bay.
All right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think actually had a pretty good offseason. You have signings of Randy Gregory at edge, Bryce Hall at cornerback, guard Sua Opeta, safety Jordan Whitehead, safety Antoine Winfield Jr., which I think that was a
Big money.
re-signing.
Yeah.
Re-signing of Mike Evans, re-signing of quarterback Baker Mayfield, and I believe also a re-signing of Levante David.
Oh, yeah.
Departures, they lost Shaq Barrett, cornerback Carlton Davis, which isn't really that big of a loss how much he played there. Guard Nick Leverett, guard Aaron Stinney, linebacker Devin White. They started the draft out really fucking great with drafting center Graham Barton, who was by far and away the best center in this draft.
Yeah.
And by far and away, I mean like the next one I think was like 40 spots lower. Then they drafted edge Chris Braswell, which I thought was another good pick. It fit a need. It was good. It was right at the value. And then I don't know what the fuck. It went off the rails for a minute, and they drafted safety Tyke Smith. Way big reach. And then they kind of corrected a little bit by drafting Jalen McMillan at wide receiver, which they don't really need a wide receiver, but it's good value.
Yeah.
And they're probably looking down the road with probably losing one of the big two. So start to develop the guy.
Yeah, I think that made sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like it overall, I guess. It's tough. Like guys like Shaq Barrett, Devin White, whatnot. You know, it's one of these things where it felt like Tampa Bay needed to start shedding some of these players
Mm-hmm.
because, a lot of these guys were very highly rated players, but it just didn't seem like it was translating on the field, and at least not like it was a few years ago. And so, uh, I'm pretty comfortable with what they did. Um, I'm still speculative with Baker Mayfield at quarterback
Mm-hmm.
because he just was never that good in Cleveland, right? And so, he was good his rookie year in Cleveland and then kind of never got back to that. And then, now, um, he had a great year last year, but can he repeat it? I'm just not totally sure. So, the whole thing just kind of leaves me teeter-tottering with what do you do with Tampa Bay, man?
So Baker Mayfield, you're saying everyone's saying he had a resurgent year last year, but still the offense was the 23rd best offensive unit in the league
Yeah,
last year.
still bottom third, yeah.
So bottom third. They have to substantially improve on that, and I don't think Baker Mayfield is the guy that can do it.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's got great weapons at wide receiver.
he has great weapons at wide receiver. I just don't trust him. Like we
Yeah.
talked about it all last year, the entire season, all 18 weeks. I talked about how I don't trust this is really Baker Mayfield. All 18
Yeah,
weeks of the season, I was
yeah.
saying this can't really be Baker Mayfield. This can't really be Baker Mayfield. Like, there's no way that's Baker Mayfield. Plus, they lost the guy that got him there, that
Hmm.
got him to do that. In the way, way, way too early, I had them winning the division at 11-6.
Okay.
I've now taken them down, even though I like their offseason. I really like their offseason moves, their draft. I liked a lot of their draft. I now have them at 8-9.
8-9. All right. So you did basically. Hang on. Did you say you had them at what was your super early?
11-6.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I had them at 7-10 in the super early, and I bumped them up to 9-8. And so my super early had Atlanta taking the division, and now it's a split between the Saints and the Bucks, and I got Atlanta at third. And so you're totally flipping it, and you've got Carolina winning it, and yeah, the Saints and the Bucks fighting for second.
Yeah, Saints and the Bucks fighting for second, and I think on the tiebreaker, I had because I had Tampa Bay winning both games against New Orleans, and that was the tiebreaker.
Gotcha. Oh man. All right. Well, I don't know. The NFC South is just not an exciting division.
It's not an exciting division. There's potential for it to be an exciting division with Carolina and Atlanta if Atlanta gets their head out of their ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's this year, but maybe it's coming. So, well, that's all right. Yeah, let's do some question of the week, man. You ready for that?
You do have three first round quarterback picks in that division. So
3 first-round quarterback picks?
yeah, 3 top 10 quarterbacks, like from the draft.
Oh, because of Penix.
Well, Penix.
His cousin was late. Carr was a second rounder. And then Baker and Bryce Young were both number 1. So
Baker and Bryce Young and Penix.
And then Penix, the backup is top 10. Yep. I hear you. All right, let's do some question of the week, James. And
I'm ready.
You said you didn't watch the Lions game. Maybe you read about it or caught some highlights or something. I don't know. But I want to talk to you about Hendon Hooker. And I want your opinion. We're a year in. Last year was a redshirt year. Do you think that there's still hope for him, or is this guy just going to be a bust? And, I read an article earlier, people giving him some glowing reviews, even though he barely played last night and left the game with a concussion. I am super fucking speculative on him right now. I was like pumped when we drafted him. And then I'll tell you what, man, it all started getting weird for me last year when he was on the injury report with like a fucking toothache. I don't know if you remember talking about that with me, but I was just like, dude, if you are on a fucking NFL injury report with a fucking toothache, something just ain't right with me. And that bothered me, okay? Then the next thing that bothered me is yesterday, I thought, okay, this guy's been in the league a year now. I get it last year, recovering from the ACL, whatever, needed time. But I still would have expected him to get the start over fucking Sudfeld, and he did not. And I believe that that's just a coaching decision because Hooker hadn't had any game time yet, and they wanted him to just get eased in. But my problem with all that is now this is a guy that was seen as a very high ceiling guy coming out of the draft that we got at a bargain because he was hurt. Now he hasn't played a game in over a year, and when he finally does, he's going in against third stringers in the NFL. And I watched that game. he had a little bit of action on the ground, which was nice to see, but he really didn't do anything passing. And even when he ran, to me, it's not like it was electric. It was kind of forced and just kind of like lucky with what was going on with the defense. And so, and then him leaving with a concussion, obviously now that bothers me. And so I'm just starting to, and I suppose none of it ever matters as long as Goff stays healthy. And I mean, it's all going that way now. We've committed to Goff like that and everything, and so that's fine. I remember like 2 months ago there were people saying we might be able to trade him for a late first round pick, and I'm like, who the fuck is smoking what thinking that? The guy hasn't done anything yet, but there was some hype there and some mystery because of how great he was at Tennessee, and then he got hurt and drafted whatever and this, that. And so I don't know, man. Where do you stand on Hendon Hooker right now?
So the thing with it is, the first thing with the passing, and your passing comment, who was he passing the ball to when he was in the third quarter?
Yeah, I hear you, man. He's playing with a bunch of third stringers, going up against a bunch of third stringers, and so that's tough. I guess what I'm saying, and I'll just finish my rant with this, is that to me, he needs to be our backup quarterback, our QB2 to start week 1. If it's Sudfeld over him, wow, I got a real problem with Hendon Hooker at that point. But, keep going, man. Sorry.
Also, with the toothache, and I think I said this then, I think the Lions were doing whatever they could to keep him on the injury report and keep him out.
Just don't let him risk getting hurt.
Yeah, let him fully come back from the ACL.
Okay, so you think that was maybe a little joke by the Lions? Oh, he's got a toothache.
Yeah, I think that was kind of like a joke by the Lions that, he has a toothache. Like, their entire goal last year was 100%
just don't let him
of the
get
season.
Touched. Yeah,
100% of the season, let him rehab and get healthy.
Okay.
I'm not certain if he is the future quarterback of the franchise. I think going into the draft and pick him and going into the season, it was he's the future quarterback, but we did not see Goff lighting it up. The jury was out on Goff. If Goff puts together another year and starts putting together back-to-back years, I think it's not going to matter.
Okay.
Because for him to be the future of the franchise, he was drafted second round, I believe, so he only has 4 years.
I think he slipped to the third, man.
Was it the third round? It might have been the third round, but I'm just saying he.
Either way, yeah, he's only under a 4-year contract. Yeah,
he's only under a 4-year contract. So if Goff has another season like he did this year, his only prospects on the team are going to be on a backup contract, and he's not going to take it. I think if he can show anything this preseason with Goff and Goff starts lighting it up, I think the Lions look to trade him and get some value out of him because he has a lot of potential. That's on. Yes, he was third round. But it was early third round. He has a lot of potential to be a phenomenal quarterback in this league. If you even you look at his stats at Tennessee, he had first year he didn't play. He started 9 of the 10 games in 2020. I'm sorry, this is at Virginia Tech. 2019 he started 9 of the 10 games, 99 reception completions on 162, 1,500 yards, 98 on 150, 1,300 yards. Plus both he had 356 and 620 yards rushing. 2021 at Tennessee, 206 completions on 303 attempts, 68% completions, almost 3,000 yards, 600 yards rushing. 2022 at Tennessee, in a shortened season because he got hurt and he missed the last 2 games, he still had 3,100 yards,
Yeah.
69.6% completion percentage, but he only had 430 rushing yards. His overall college career in 45 total games played, 38 started. He had almost 9,000 yards receiving. His college career was a 67% completion percentage, and he had 2,000 yards rushing, 25 rushing touchdowns. His TD to interception ratio was ridiculously off the charts. He had 80 touchdowns, 12 interceptions in his career.
I mean, I love what he did in college, man. I'm just wanting to see some of that develop and translate into the NFL. And I get it with Goff getting extended. It really doesn't matter for us, but I just was excited for him, and I feel like, man, I don't know, something just weird is just not happening right with him.
Right, but I'm saying, but I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
Because you're looking. So he sucks it up in the preseason, and he ends up as the backup quarterback here, right?
He's got to be the QB2. If he's the QB3, I'm going to feel real weird about.
Even if he let him be the QB3, let him suck in the preseason, let him develop, let him get that development, and if he gets that development, and then it comes after his 4-year contract's on.
Right.
It's easier to to extend him or resign him and let him develop in this offense, and then you're going to have him as eventually as the backup quarterback. Goff's going to move on, and you're going to have low salary cap hit on your backup lower salary cap hit on your quarterback in Hendon Hooker, and the clock really hasn't started on him.
I got you. Okay, I hear you. You're playing the long game.
Yeah, I don't want the flash in the pan Lions that we've seen in the past. I want the long sustained success. Yeah, and the only way to do that is not to draft a quarterback, is to properly develop a guy and get that extended window with the guy, because
I know. And I just want to have a serviceable backup, and a guy with potential. And maybe he's still the guy. I see people like fucking Minshew floating all over the league, and Nick Foles did it for years. And it's like, man, we had Teddy Bridgewater last year. That was nice, right? It was like, wow, we finally have, something in case Goff goes down. Sudfeld's not the answer. So, even if we're going to have Hooker hang around as the QB3, I think we got to do something at QB2, because Sudfeld looks like fucking dog shit.
I'll give you that. I don't think Sudfeld's the answer as the backup. Honestly, I think what it's going to end up is Hendon Hooker is going to be the backup, and everything's going to be fine. But I'm fine with him just barely getting in there as the backup. Sure. Like, I want him to be kind of downplayed until he's ready to have that breakout.
Until the time comes. Take the league by storm.
Exactly, and we don't have to give him that big contract.
All right.
To extend it.
All right, I hear you, man. I hear you. You eased my pain. I'm calming down. All right, well, that's the question of the week, man. What else you want to talk about? Anything?
I don't think so. I think that's
all she wrote for tonight.
It might be. Let's update our people that are watching on the scores, because we know they didn't watch the preseason games. So you had the Dolphins are now at the start of the fourth quarter up 20-13. Steelers have come on the board. The game's about to go final. Texans have the ball, 3 seconds left. Texans are winning 20-12. I actually want to look at the stats later about that, but and then the Eagles have started the fourth quarter, are now up 13-6 on the Ravens. So you have a huge defensive battle going there.
Okay.
That's about it, though.
Gotcha. Sweetness. It's here. Football. Yeah. Fantasy football too. Yeah.
And apparently, Kyle Allen, who's still in the league, Russ didn't play at all. Justin Fields started. Kyle Allen had a decent game.
He's been a good backup.
Where was he before? Was he with Buffalo? Yeah, he was with
Man,
Buffalo
yeah,
last year.
I was trying to think. Yeah, because he was, Carolina to Washington, and then okay, Buffalo, and now Pittsburgh. Yeah, so he's popping around.
Well,
But
you forgot about Houston.
oh shit, man, he's really been popping around.
Yeah, Carolina 2 years, Washington 2 years, Houston 1 year, Buffalo 1 year, and now he's with the Steelers. So he's this generation's or this time this decade's Fitz magic.
Yeah, good for him, man. Good for him. All right, well, hey, for anybody who's still watching, we hope you liked the show. We really do. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Uh, Give us a thumbs up. Send us some comments. Anything. We're desperate. We want to hear from you. Uh, we're so desperate. Fucking 4 views last week. Oh my God.
Oh God.
I don't know. It might be higher now, but it's okay. It's okay. We're still having fun. So we're going to do the AFC, NFC West next week, and then we'll close it off the week after with the North. So thanks for watching, guys. We will catch you later. James, like always, it was fun, man.
All right, have a good one.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.